Hello?
Yes, Tirupati, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, so how are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks. How are you? Yeah.
Yeah, great. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Let me just pull out your profile. One second. Okay. Meanwhile, why can't you just brief me about yourself, more about your, technical expertise, your experience, and your, specialization.
Yeah, coming to myself, this is Tirupati Rao. I have taught 3 years of experience as a web developer. So I have the skills like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, ESX, Bootstrap, React.js. These are my complete skill set. And I started my career from 2019 in the company JBG Info Solutions Private Limited. So this is my first company. I'm working from last 3 years here. So coming to my previous project, CVS Health is a health domain project. It's a product for the hospital management systems. Yeah. So coming as a roles and responsibility as a web developer, I need to create the all the components, API integrations, template changes, all those things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is a little brief about me. Yeah.
So, how many years you have in React?
In React, I have around 2 years as in relevant experience.
Relevant experience, okay. And total IT industry?
3 years.
Oh, okay. 3 years. Fine. And you are pass out?
I passed from 2018.
2008.
2018, not 2018.
That's what, sorry. 2018.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I complete
I got
2018. After that I taken some coaching centers and after that I start my career from 2019. Yeah.
it. Mhm. I got it. Yeah. So when it comes to the React, like as you have 2 years of experience into the React, like what exactly the challenges and you faced in React?
So actually initially which I faced a challenge while learning process. So it was one step by step I updated my skills and while working in the project I got the knowledge. So like creating the components and components and the API integrations, multi-level components. When I coming to the nested multiple components, then it's to face the challenge like passing the data from one component to other component to other component, and some type of micro level components. At the time I was facing the challenge, but I faced it and. So this is my skills. I face the challenge while working on the multi components, multi level
Mhm.
components like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, when you're talking about the components, like how really components are used in terms of any application, really the component makes a lot of difference. Can you explain me what is the component-based applications?
If as per my understanding, component is like a building block of the application. If you want to use actually for React.js, we are using for the single page applications. Single page application means if you only for first time only one page will load. Is the next time so next time was with the only the user interface, like only the component user interface will render, not the whole page. So in the page we have multiple components. So one of the particular component will render. So that's why user feels is very fast. Single page application is very fast. So, for example, if you have one application, we can convert the way the application into multiple building blocks like a multiple application. So every block is a view. So components like nothing but the one view we are rendering. So if you load the components, the particular view part is just rendering. That is the component.
Okay. So can we create only one component to render all the functionalities? Meaning, like I have a dashboard page,
Mm.
I can create a component, and I'm not creating more components. I have only one component, one component itself. I am just using as a page.
Mm.
There are no more components, but still, it will work. Right?
It will work. We can work because So it will also generally we know, for example, our application total application will load in the app component. Only one app component will load, but other side we can maintain child components. So we our application only one component. We can write our total application in one component. In one component we can write. But the thing is, if you use the building blocks like micro level components, then that's easily to understand to organize the code, and also like for rendering purpose also it is useful. Yeah, that's why that's the
Okay, I think you have some internet issue. Your voice is breaking in between.
no breaking. You can it's very clear.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that means my internet is good, and but I'm getting some
No sounds.
in between
Yes,
hiccups.
no, no sound. Okay, I
Fine,
think
fine, not sure.
I'll switch up my fan, sir.
No problem.
Now it's clear.
No, it's clear, but in between the network is up and down. Okay,
Okay, okay.
fine. We'll continue. So, okay, as you mentioned, like it's a component base, and components will talk each other.
Yeah.
So if I ask you, what is the way we can communicate from child component to parent component?
Generally, if you want to pass a data to a component, we can pass to the props. If you want to pass data from parent to child, we can to the props. So we can pass the data from parent to child. If you want to communicate from child to parent, what we will do is if you want to change one state value in the component, so what we will do in the parent component, we write a function. That function handler we can pass as a property to the child component. For in the
Mhm.
child component, so from the child component, if any event happen, we will call the event handler. That event handler call execute in the parent component, then the parent component property will change. So from the child component, we are updating the parent component property, or we are passing that one. Yeah, in this way we can communicate from child to parent.
Got it. So, what are the different ways? Like as you mentioned, like parent to child, child to parent. These are like we use props, and you just passing the method, maintaining the state, and returning the same method back to the parent. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the parent to child, child to parent. I understand.
Yes.
And what are the different ways, in the React, the components will talk?
Generally, using the props, we can props link. It will, for example, if
Mm-hmm.
you want to communicate from A to B, B to C, C to D levels, it's a props link concept is there.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that, if you want to if you instead of using this props link and passing props, you want to pass the data between the components. If you want to share that between the components, we have like a use context hook is there. So using the use context, you can communicate from one component to the other component data you can communicate. That is the other way. The other way, I have idea that when the Redux, we have the total data we are maintaining the Redux store. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we can share the data from the third store. So this is the ways I know, I understand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So once we land into the dashboard page, we show some reports immediately.
Yeah.
For example, dashboard page or reports page, you
Yeah.
see immediate some reports. So where this API call happened, the initial in let's take the class component where it will happen.
The class component, we have the life cycle slides. So we before rendering component, we rendering get state from props. Generally use the functional component. What I will do is I use the use effect while page loading, and the use effect method in the I do the as a empty array or empty array. So that means the phone the first time that where page initialization, so we are calling the repose data APIs and fetch the data and we update our state values. Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about functional component.
Yeah, the class components are also, I mean, initially I work with the class components. Let's say we have the component life cycles later in the mounting stage. In the mounting stage, we have the constructor rendering and component will mount and get state from get state process from get states update. Like this life in that life cycle look, I will update. Yeah.
Hmm. In that case, it's a kind of hooks concept, right? In functional component, like it looks like you have the experience in functional
Yes.
component.
Yeah. I
Okay,
have that one also, but majorly the functional components. Yeah.
functional component. So. is this hooks, I mean, follows any sequence? Like what it will load, like what method, what hook will load first, or something like that.
I don't have idea at the depth level, but as per my understanding, the use say
Like
first use state, use.
once the function component loads, there are certain methods, certain hooks. I mean, catch first.
I think use
There
state few
is
caps first, use state, after the use effect, after the render, these things I understand.
no fine. So what is the use state for? Why really it required?
If you want to use the local data into component, if component level, if you want to manage the data, we use the states. So to create the state data, we use the use state hook. Using the use state hook, we can create our local data. So this had two parameters like state and state. So we can if you we're maintaining the data in the state value states. If you want to update the data, we use the set state function. So to create these states, we use the use state. Yeah, for example, if I want to have the name, I want to maintain the name data, name value. So I call the const name set name use state. So with the using the use state, by giving some default value, we create the on state. Yeah.
Okay. So without creating the use state method, can we directly create the variables and
But
update it dynamically?
it's create, but it's not correct because it's everything is standard. Everything is with calling the functional calling. Yeah. Hello.
Mm. Yeah, I can hear. Go ahead.
So everything you can do, but everything it will done. It will calling the variables. Is rendering again and again.
Uh, okay. So because I have a registration page, I have like 25 fields.
Okay.
So every time we can't, I mean, do you think like you will write use state 25 times?
No, no, I use the I use just one state only. I use the but I object. I use the state object. So users, for example, registration for the user. I create the one user object. So in the use state, I create the one default for first name, last name. I create the object level instead of creating for every that we use the I maintain one state with the object with the key value. Yeah.
You're saying like 25, there are required of 25 variables to create. So how the 25
No, that's what
variables?
only one variable. One thing I created. One variable is the
Mhm.
object. It's the object. So the all 25
No,
values we are maintaining in the object
your
level.
voice is big.
I am maintaining the all 25 objects in 25 variables in the object in that object.
You will create object and maintain the okay. All these 25 you maintain in the object.
Yeah,
Then
yeah. Then we have only one state, but with the key values, multiple keys.
okay. Yeah, I got it. Can you give just brief me like what is virtual DOM in React?
So virtual DOM means while rendering the page, we take the copy of the real DOM and put in the memory. That is the virtual DOM. So what happening if any changes happen? I mean, if rendering again, if any changes happen, this will create another updated virtual DOM with the changes. So it will compare the previous virtual DOM and updated virtual DOM. What are the nodes it will affect? Only those nodes will apply on the real DOM. This process is called reconciliation.
Perfect. Yeah, correct. Nice. So one second. Okay. Come to the JavaScript, like most of the time in React, we use the destructuring concept. Like, you ever used and what is destructuring?
So, for example, if you want to convert the array elements into separate individual variables, we use we destruction the array elements into the variables. So this is the array destruction. And also we can destruction the object key values into key as the variables and value as the value. This is the object destruction.
So what if the array dynamically update?
The what is the
What if the same array dynamically updated? So same the destructuring concept, the same variables may vary because if there are
we
like
say in the
10
object and the object for
Mhm.
the object we need the same way, same names, same for the
Same
keys.
names.
But in the array we can use different names for that variables.
Mhm. Okay.
For example, yeah, x array x is equal 1 2 3. We can create the object like concept of a comma b comma c equal to 1 2 3 array. So a is the a
Mhm.
variable in one, while b will be like that. Yeah.
We're still using destructuring. I mean, in our
Yeah, in
previous
the React,
application.
while passing the props, we're passing the props, right? So the same we are using the this section.
Mhm.
So all the props data we are into the separate variables. So
Mhm.
in this section, yeah.
So once a user log in with the username and password and successfully he logged in, he just landed into the dashboard page. There I just show the username called Tirupati Rao, for example,
Okay,
on the dashboard the component.
okay.
And from dashboard to I'm just switching to, for example, reports page.
Mm,
There also I want to see the same username Tirupati Rao in the on the reports component.
mm.
How we follow the values one component to other component.
So that values we are actually once we log in, first time once we log in, we store that value into the session in the local storage. Otherwise, we can maintain the stores. You put in that one. So if we go, so for that showing the username that we are maintaining the separate component. In that component, we are taking the value either from the session storage, local storage, or from the stores on the Redux stores. So
Local
yeah,
storage, okay.
and we are maintaining the separate component for the showing the name. So in that component, we are getting data from the storage level. Yeah, stored from or from
Local
session.
storage is the not the React way. So I want to
Redux
understand.
store, yeah, and the Redux stores
So
we
your
can.
way, you want to use the manage state management.
Yeah, straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other way? Because this is very small state, right?
So other way, if we are maintaining the one component, so that is our separate component. So in the below we are maybe we are in the rendering, routing from one component to the other. The top
Mm.
component is existing. We are not rendering that one. We are rendering the below part. If you want to render the whole part with along with the page, then we'll take the data from the storage or stores or local storage like that.
Okay. So you worked on promises, right?
Yeah.
Can you just explain like what are promises and how it is used?
See, actual promises are like it's like asynchronous operations to consume the data from the others from the data and getting the data. So it has two callback functions. Either it's a success or fail. So it's resolve or reject. If you get the success data, we consume the data successfully, then we call it a resolve method. Otherwise, we use the reject method. So that's a promise like a asynchronous operation. Yeah.
So on what basis use, I mean, the success and on what basis
For
we use?
example,
Like if you ask me the same question, I can say while using the API calls based on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
response.
yeah,
That is one
definitely.
way I can say.
Yes, yes.
Apart from that, like wait, I mean, before to you say answer that for the API calling, I understand. Apart from that, like is there any other example you can give me that you use promises?
Generally, in my application, for API call for fetching, I use the promise and getting. Uh, so if you're getting for example, I getting for example, after getting some data from other source, if you want to execute that some function, then I use the promise.
So when you create the form and if you want to validate the form, uh, is there any separate mechanism in React? Meaning like, I
React
don't want to submit
validation,
the.
React validation, some separate libraries we are used. Otherwise, we use using control components where you can validate custom validations.
What's the library use? React violations?
Yeah,
What library?
React form validations we are using. Yeah,
React validations form is that library name?
React form validation. Some library is there. If you want that to use that library, you can use. Otherwise, if you want to use want the custom validation, then I use the control components.
Okay.
Using the control components while on change method, then I take the value state. When submitting, I will check the state value is there or not, like that. Hello.
Yeah, I'm just and come to the higher order components. Like do you worked on these? You created higher order component.
Yeah, sometimes, for example, I have the post and comments. So in the post section, I want to show the comments wrapper also. Then I pass the comments component is the property to the post component. So post component is a header component. Yeah.
Can you explain me about Redux and its uses?
So in coming the deck, so our total center data application we're maintaining in the store. In the storage we maintain data in the states format, state objects format. So from the store, so a total application we can directly subscribe data from the store in any component. So we need to create the store in the through the so we can subscribe the data using selectors. We can get the data from the store in any component. So, but if you want to update the data, or create the data, or delete the data in the store, we cannot do directly. We can do by dispatching an action with the action type and a payload. We pass the reducer. The reducer function will take over the what is the action type. Based on the action type, it will update the state objects in the store. So once it updates automatically, wherever you subscribe, the data is consumed. This is the flow. In the React, what we can using the connect method, we can connect the component to the stores, and also using map state to process, we can pass the state stored data to the props component, and maps dispatch to props like that. When an event happen, we pass the data to the you can dispatch the events, these actions. So this is the all about Redux. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you have any alternate for Redux? Any uh,
Alternate.
competitor? Yeah, apart from Redux. For
Uh,
the state management, only Redux is there, or is there any other
I have
competitor?
I use we can install the Redux. We can use the use context. Otherwise, alternate for the Redux, we can use the like local we can maintain the storage systems. That is the idea.
Use context. Okay. Use context for the functional
The
component.
function, yeah. Context
Yeah.
stripping, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Let's KPI. Hmm. Then I think you've been to the routers or like for the router you use any library or is
Yeah,
there
we have
any?
like we have browser router sometimes hash routing. We have router and we do the route to which the routes. So this step for navigation purpose we use the navigation. Yes. Sometimes use the browser routing and sometimes the hash routing. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And how about services? Like how you create the services in there?
Services means actually services for calling API calls we're talking about.
Yeah, API calls only. Yeah, that's what
We create the
services.
service and then we can actually in the Angular I have creating the services and using that one. Yeah.
Mhm. In React, do you use any third party to call the services?
ActJS generally use the fetch. Otherwise, sometimes I use the ActJS services. If you're
Okay,
using
you have used both. You mean to say?
yeah. So create the user
Okay.
service and that one they get getting the data, all the API data we're maintaining the services. We from the services methods we can call in to get the data.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the list iteration, like we have array iterate, we can iterate with the different methods called for each and map and all this. So what's the difference between map and for each?
So both are we can use the for this to apply something some functionality on every element of the array. We can use the map and for each. But the map will return the updated array. For each will not return anything. If you want to take the array element, if you want something, if you want to use apply something, then use the for each. For each is not returning anything. Map will return that one. Yeah.
And what is the difference between double equal to and triple equal to?
If you want if you use the double equal to use for to check the value both side. If you both side left side value right side value is equal or not, then you use the double equal. If you use the triple equal to along with the value, if you check that the data type for each on each side.
Okay. So you're saying like we compare the types for triple equal to
Yeah, types and
data type of the
data types and value. Yeah,
types and values. So if I just compare null double equal to undefined, so what will be the
triple equal to is give the for false. This is also null with the double equal to undefined is also false. Both are false.
okay? So null double equal to or null triple equal to undefined returns you false.
Yeah.
So how good you are in HTML and CSS?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, I have experience. Yeah.
Any framework you're using for React? I mean, any libraries?
For theming purpose, I use sometimes Bootstrap, sometimes material MUI I use material designs. Sometimes third party libraries I use. My battery. Yeah. Those types I use. Bootstraps, material UI design. Those types I use. Hello. Let me
Yeah, yeah,
put the what charge at least.
yeah. I can understand. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, I got it. So when it comes to the CSS, like what is the difference between position relative and position absolute?
If you give the position related and give the some top left, it will move to the is the adjacent elements also moved. But if you give the position absolute and give the positions, it is not to disturb the adjacent elements. The box is moved over the adjacent elements and content. Yeah, that is the main difference. This is overflow. Position absolute will overflow, but position relative will disturb the adjacent elements also.
Okay, fine. So can you name few block elements in HTML?
Yeah, div, paragraph, table, these are the block elements. So many div, table, paragraph, H1, H2,
H1. Okay.
yeah.
So let me type something for you. So I have two divs like this.
Okay.
I have div. Inside the div, I have image, and I have one more div.
Mm.
Inside, I have a image.
Okay. Okay.
So how these images looks like?
One below other.
One below other. Okay. So how I want images one next to another image, and I don't want to add or disturb or delete any DOM. How can we do using CSS?
I put these two divs into in the other div.
No, I'm not allowing any other elements. This is what we have. We are
So
not
then
going to touch it.
I use the class and use the display inline block.
Display inline block
Yeah,
to both the divs.
yeah.
Yeah, Tirupati, that's it from my end. Nothing much to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Fine. Anything to ask me?
So if I select, I need to work on the React project, right?